The summer of 2016 was one of the most shocking NBA off-seasons in the history of the game. It was where a recent MVP in the prime of his career left a team that went all the way to the Western Conference Finals, where they had a commanding 3-1 lead before they blew it, to the team that eventually went on to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, where they were eventually eliminated by just 4 points. This wasn't just any ordinary contending team though. This was the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, who throughout the regular season was being referred to as potentially the greatest team of all time. They set the NBA record for the most regular season victories of all time, and they were led by the first unanimous MVP in league history. On that roster, they had arguably the 2 greatest three-point shooters of all time, one of the greatest defensive players of all time, and a role player who was a Finals MVP. What he did that summer by joining Golden State was unlike anything we had ever seen before in the history of the league. And the day it went down, I let the world know on social media that they were going to be the NBA champions. It was that obvious. There have been super teams in the years before and since, but never quite to that extent. Today, we're asking the question, if the best player of each decade pulled a Kevin Durant, what would it look like? We're starting just right after the NBA merger. In the summer of 1978, the Seattle Supersonics had just defeated the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. And on that Lakers team that was defeated was one of the greatest centers in the history of the league, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The Sonics went all the way to the NBA Finals and stretched the series to 7 games against the Washington Bullets, before they eventually lost the deciding game by just 6 points. In that sense, this situation was very similar to that of Kevin Durant's. If Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had left his Los Angeles Lakers and joined the Seattle Supersonics, he would be joining a Sonics team that was equipped with all-stars like Dennis Johnson, Jack Sikma, and Gus Williams, forming arguably the strongest roster of the 1970s. What's worth noting is even without this hypothetical scenario, the Sonics still went on to win the 1979 NBA championship, which I think is interesting because, to be honest, that might have been the case with the Warriors in 2017, even if Kevin Durant hadn't joined them. The only major difference here is that the Sonics only had a 47-35 record before Kareem would have hypothetically been joining. So even with this crazy scenario where we're making this Western Conference powerhouse, it's still not quite as shocking as what Kevin Durant did. Now let's go to the next decade, and the season I picked was the summer of 1986. In the 1986 playoffs, the Houston Rockets shocked the world when they eliminated the defending champion Los Angeles Lakers, who were led by their legendary stars of Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The Rockets were a young team, with the historic Twin Tower tandem of Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. Although the Rockets defeated the Lakers and went on to the NBA Finals, they did eventually lose to Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. If Magic Johnson pulled a Kevin Durant, then in the prime years of his career, he would have left the Lakers and joined Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson on the Houston Rockets, forming one of the scariest starting lineups in the history of the league. Without question, this Rockets team would have dominated the Western Conference for the foreseeable future, and it would have allowed Magic to win even more championships than he won with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, since Hakeem Olajuwon was much younger, and the prime of his career occurred well after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had already retired. Let's look at the next decade, and the season I'm picking is the summer of 1995. In the 1995 NBA playoffs, the Orlando Magic had just defeated Michael Jordan after his famous comeback. The Orlando Magic were a talented squad, led by Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, and Horace Grant. Although the Bulls had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, they didn't yet have the interior presence in Dennis Rodman. If MJ pulled a Kevin Durant, he would have said screw Jerry Krause and the Bulls organization and head to the team that just defeated him, the Orlando Magic. And imagine that starting lineup. We saw how many championships Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal were able to win together. But what about Michael Jordan, Penny Hardaway, Horace Grant, and a young Shaq? I can only imagine how many rings they would have collected before MJ finally decided to hang it up. Now on to the next decade, and I'm looking at the summer of 2007. Kobe Bryant had just been eliminated out of the playoffs for the second straight season by the high-powered Phoenix Suns. And instead of getting frustrated and waiting for Pau Gasol to show up, Kobe Bryant pulls a KD and heads to the team that just defeated him, forming an absolutely terrifying lineup and possibly the greatest offense of all time, led by Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, Shawn Marion, and Amari Stoudemire. The Phoenix Suns nearly won the NBA championship without Kobe, but were just narrowly defeated by the San Antonio Spurs, and a timely suspension certainly helped that. Imagine how much they would have cruised through the Western Conference playoffs if they had a prime Kobe Bryant on that high-powered 7-second offense. Then you're looking at the decade of the 2010s, and I think the best example comes in the summer of 2010. What if LeBron James didn't join the Miami Heat, but instead went to the team that just defeated him in the NBA playoffs? Honestly, I think this is the best example in the entire video. Because if LeBron James had gone to the Boston Celtics, who had Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett, that would be the most similar to the situation that KD went to in Golden State. Think about it. LeBron had just been embarrassed by Boston with a poor performance in the playoffs. And then that Celtics team went all the way to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, where they lost by just 4 points to Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers, which is the exact same thing that happened to Golden State in Game 7 of the 2016 Finals. In this scenario, the 2010 to 2011 regular season and Eastern Conference playoffs would be a joke, as Boston would have had one of the most overpowered squads of all time. And now, we obviously have to move forward to the next decade. And honestly, I'm looking at this current summer in 2024. If Nikola Jokic had left his Denver Nuggets to join the Minnesota Timberwolves, the team that's up and coming and the team that had just eliminated him, alongside of a young star in Anthony Edwards and plenty of great defensive pieces throughout the roster, it wouldn't even be fair. They would be a lock to win the 2025 NBA championship unless there was some serious injuries. So ultimately, I think these are the best hypothetical examples that I can think of on each decade of what Kevin Durant did and what it would look like if another top-tier player did it in his era. But the craziest thing to me about this entire video is that I can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt if any of these situations are as crazy as what Kevin Durant actually did. Again, none of these hypothetical teams that a superstar player is going to were a 73-9 team. None of these teams were in the conversation for the greatest team of all time before they added one of the greatest MVPs in the history of the league. Even as I paint this situation with some of the most crazy what-ifs that we can possibly think of, I still don't know if it's as insane as what we actually witnessed. And that, to me, is the most jaw-dropping takeaway out of all of this. So what do you guys think? Which of these hypothetical rosters would be the most terrifying? And do you think Kevin Durant's decision in 2016 was good or bad for the NBA? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.